Hey, Coach, thanks for taking the time to be with us here today. And, I'm sure that a lot of junior golf families and players are going to find this really helpful. So thanks for being here.
No, thank you for having me.
Great. So I guess to get started, I know you have a really extensive competitive and coaching background. Can you kind of just fill us in with that?
Yeah, I went to the North Carolina State University and graduated from there in '92, and then played professionally for 8 years. And you know, gosh, during that time, I was a two-time All-American at North Carolina State, and won 8 times as a professional on the various mini tours. And since I've gotten my amateur status back, I've qualified for 2 U.S. amateurs. So enjoy the game, love playing. It's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I'm getting older. I'm 46 now, but don't compete as much as I used to. But still enjoy it.
Awesome. Um, I'll get right to it. This is, the biggest question that every junior golfer is always, most curious about. You're getting thousands of emails every year. You're possibly getting 100 a week, and you only have room for two, maybe three spots every year. What are the major things that those few players that earn a spot on your team do to differentiate themselves?
Um, well, I think every coach, to some extent, certainly starts with scores. I don't think too many coaches don't use that as a filter. I think most of them do, myself included. So obviously, we're looking for guys that are competitive, guys that can compete at a certain level, either within a state, certainly, or at the AJGA level, be an academic All American. Um, so those are kind of the levels that we're looking for on our end.
Okay. What about the academic side? I know you guys are one of the top public universities in the world. So obviously it takes a great student. What are you guys looking for?
You know, typically the profile with our guys are somewhere around an 1100 SAT. That's pretty standard for our place, if not just a little bit above that. And then the GPAs, they vary so wildly, it gets really hard to kind of predict that. But I would say somewhere around a 3.5 or so, depending on public, private, kind of what kind of classes they're taking, whether it's honors or IBs or anything like that. So 3.5 is probably a pretty good mark for that.
Okay, great. And I know UVA is a public school, so there is an advantage, and it makes sense that you would have several in-state players.
Mhm.
Do you do your recruiting a lot of it within Virginia and maybe the states surrounding, or do you have a pretty national reach with recruiting?
I don't stick to Virginia probably as much as you would think. I mean, I've probably had 6 or 7 in my 12 years here. Obviously, we try to recruit the best players, certainly in the world, although we don't really recruit overseas a lot. Um, we have had 2 or 3 international players over the years, but for the most part, our reach has really kind of been East Coast, anywhere from Boston all the way down to Florida. We have 2 guys on our team right now from Florida.
Okay.
So for the most part, it has been East Coast. Although I would like to welcome some West Coast kids at some point.
Okay. Sounds good. Um, so, say you're out there, you're at a tournament recruiting. Um, I think it's pretty common for a lot of junior golfers to think, okay, coach is here. I've been waiting for this for months. I need to go birdie every hole. What are you really out there looking for?
There's a lot of things. We look for a lot of intangibles. I mean, once you get beyond the score, which I mentioned earlier, and there are a lot of things that we look at with kids that probably don't think, how you react to certain situations, whether it's being 2 or 3 over early or being 2 or 3 under. Maybe if you have the lead in a tournament, maybe you're trying to make the cut, or uh, maybe you've played poorly the day before and you're trying to bounce back. I think a lot of guys kind of get too caught up in we are thinking because they'd probably be surprised You're looking for guys that have good golf swings, guys that have potential, guys that are willing to fight. Um, in the golf sense, go out there and compete and play well each and every day. Because in our sport, the reality is you can play poorly one day, but then still help the team 2 or 3 days. Certainly in the national championship, you could help three days. So I think kids sometimes get way too caught up in kind of the moment, thinking too small. There's certainly a bigger picture of things that we're looking at.
Okay, great. Um, that's on course. I know a really big aspect of any player that you would welcome to your team is, getting to know them on a personal level as well as their family. Um, what are you looking for when a player comes for a visit?
Um, a lot of times we're really kind of looking at the parents. A lot of times, the interaction between the recruit parents and obviously the recruit and the coaching staff. For us, it's more about trying to get that fit from a personality standpoint when they're there on a visit. But somebody that's put some thought into the visit, somebody's done some research, somebody that's thought about our program, has spent some time studying, you know, the courses that we play, uh, the schedule that we play, some of the guys on the team. All of those things show coaches, I think, that there's a genuine interest there, that taking this visit seriously. But really, for us, the main part is seeing guys that are good fits, making sure that the personalities fit between the coaching staff and players.
Okay, awesome. Um, so I know when I was in college, I played at UVA's tournament. Your guys' home course is awesome, but I thought was even more impressive was your guys' practice facility. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, we have, I mean, arguably one of the best practice facilities in the country. You've seen it. It's 4.5 acres. It's got 5 greens on it. It has 2 tees. Stretches up to 225 yards. So it's a lot more than just kind of a short game area. Although that's really kind of how we use it, just to be frank. But each and every day, we're out there working on wedges, controlling distances. Spin. Um, and then chipping and putting, that's a big part of our daily routine. Dr. Rotella, wants our guys working 140 yards and in, and that's something that we do every single day. The facility really kind of lends itself to practicing in that nature.
Well, that's also pretty exciting. So the team gets to work with Dr. Bob Rotella.
We do, yeah. He's our volunteer assistant coach, lives here in Charlottesville, and I mean, it's been a pleasure to work with him the last 12 years. I mean, incredible resource. I can't speak enough about, what he's done for our programs. Guys like Ben Coles that have gone on to make it on tour, Denny McCarthy, David Pastor. Um, he's really, really helped our program. It's hard to kind of put your finger on exactly how much he's helped, all because it's mainly mental. But I can assure you, none of those guys would be where they are today without working with him.
That's unbelievable. I'm sure a lot of the listeners, they may know who Dr. Bob Rotella is, but he's working with a good amount of the PGA Tour every year with the mental game, and it's pretty amazing that you guys have access to him.
Yeah, he oddly enough, and I have a recruiting letter that speaks to this a little bit. Talks about Dr. Rotella. There aren't many common denominators when you start looking at tour professionals, whether it's a swing coach or where they grew up or weather or whatever. But Dr. Rotella is a very, very common denominator between a lot of the tour pros. I know he told me last year he had won 86 major championships, worked with people that had won 86 major championships. So when you start trying to find instruction or a certain area of the country, you wouldn't find anybody that's worked with that great a number of major championship winners.
That's great.
Yeah.
Amazing on the mental side. What about yourself? Obviously, you have a strong playing background. How do you feel like you like to share your experiences with your players, day in, day out?
Well, I think things that help separate our program from a lot of programs is that I played in college golf. I've played at a high level. I understand the demands of college golf and getting to that next level, which is ultimately the goal of everybody that comes into our program. And I think that's one of the things that really helps develop our players. We try to run our program in a very, very professional manner. Everything we do, from workouts to yardage books, I hand make yardage books for every single tournament. The way we practice from 140 yards and in, Dr. Rotella, arguably the best mental coach in the world. Everything we try to do is from a professional approach and trying to advance guys from basically junior golf to the professional level. And I hope our statistics kind of show that we're doing a good job of developing players and taking them to the next level. For me personally, obviously I try to share my experiences with the guys. Uh, Having played in college, having played at the amateur level, having played professionally, and trying to bridge that, kind of narrow that time frame between being a junior golfer and a coach, and making that gap much easier. That's one of the things that I try to do, try to share all of my experiences. And I think you're seeing that with a lot of guys on tour nowadays. They're coming out and they're prepared to play at that level. I think a lot of it is coaching in college golf. I think there are a lot of very, very good coaches out there that are doing excellent jobs in uh, getting kids the knowledge they need to kind of get to that level much quicker.
It sounds like it. And, I think one huge adjustment is when you go from high school golf to college, being able to balance your school and your golf. And, you guys have so many great assets on the golf end, between yourself, you have mental game, fitness, practice facilities. Um, do you find it is a big adjustment for some of the players when they come into UVA with, everything they have going on?
Well, I think it is no matter where you go. But to answer your question, yeah, guys do have a period. But again, I don't think it's any different than any other place. You come into a new environment. Um, you're working with new people. Obviously, it's a great academic school. The challenges here academically, they're strong. So you have to have kids that are disciplined and focused, and really want that academic piece in addition to just the golf side.
Okay. This is awesome. Coach, thank you so much. We've talked a lot about
Yeah.
what recruits can be doing to get noticed by you, a lot about the program. Last two questions. What's the one biggest thing a player can do to really express interest in your program? We've touched on it a bit, but what would you
I
say?
think the biggest thing really is visiting. Just to be honest,
Okay.
when recruits take the time to come visit, I mean, it shows me that they're genuinely interested. Obviously, I realize there's an expense and time and all that, but that shows a coach that there is an interest level there. So I think that's really the biggest thing. And then, reaching out over the phone, talking, communicating, all those things, uh, and show that there's an interest level.
Okay. And then what is the one biggest turnoff or one thing players should not be doing through this whole process?
Wow, hard question there. Um, Honestly, I think I think probably leaving the parents out of the process as much as they can. I think showing ownership on their end, kind of taking it control of the situation. Uh, I think that would be probably the biggest turnoff. Having parents do all the work and making all the calls and coming in asking all the questions. Uh, we as coaches, we want to talk to the recruit. We are going to have to deal with that recruit for 4 years. And so it's a working relationship. And, I realize it can be intimidating at times as a 14, 15-year-old to come in and visit. But I think it shows a lot when you actually take the time to prepare and ask questions and do it themselves. I think that shows a lot of maturity, a lot of ownership in the process. And that's something I know I enjoy.
Okay. Great. Well, Coach, thank you so much. This was really helpful. I appreciate your time and good luck with the spring season.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it very much.